And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Well, not only that, we also founded Codename.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and
for every episode, it's pretty year long.
There you go.
Yeah,
see?
Because when we're not here, I did. I
Yeah.
pattern recognition after 120 some odd episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
At any rate,
Yeah, today is our 129th episode.
that can't be right. Have we done 129 of these?
Well, technically we've only done 128 of them, but hopefully everything goes well today.
Hey, they've gone well 128 times so far.
That's true, except for that one episode.
Whoa, wait, we swore never to speak of that episode.
Sorry, it slipped out. Of course, we've never had a dud.
Yes, that is the episode that shall not be named.
Today we are here to answer your design and development questions about idle champions.
Not development and design questions?
I don't know.
Oh, all right.
Interchangeable.
At any rate, if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, what do we got here? Chris Dupuis giving spoilers on the stream before us.
We wrote this before we knew he didn't give spoilers.
He always gives spoilers.
Anyway, I do a really good Chris impression, so.
All right. Prove it. Let's hear it.
What? Oh, okay.
Let's hear your Chris impression.
I'm Chris Dupuis. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler.
Yeah. Okay. That's spot on. I could almost, it's almost as if he was in the room with us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
3 out of 10.
3.
That was at least a 2.
Why am I getting pings? Okay, anyway, I will mute that in a moment. As always, of course, we have pulled forward some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and we will answer those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I do have some updates. Well, I've got at least one update on items that were flagged to get looked at by the dev team. And so without any further stalling for time, which is clearly obviously what we are doing, we will get started with those. Let us see here. Yep. So as far as fixes and new features go, the one I've got here is that there was a familiar targeting issue where the familiars were not correctly targeting enemies in the front row in a particular. All right. I have to mute that. Sorry, I'm not sure why this is open. Oh, I know exactly why this is open. Because our restream credentials expired and we had to put them back in. Okay.
Well, apparently our code's not fitting.
Oh,
it's a
dud.
That's ironic.
Yeah. Jeez. All right.
There we go.
Okay. Crisis averted. Let us continue on. Right. Familiar targeting fixes, because in a previous build those were broken, and now apparently they are fixed. I don't have, again, and I'm starting to feel bad about not having this list of items at the beginning of the show because it has gotten so long. And I know we had quite a few items we tagged for Peter last week, so that list is growing. But there will be developer time for that in the future. Okay, then we don't have any announcements, which means on to the leftover questions.
Excellent.
Starting with a question from Randram. Looks like this is actually directed at you, Justin. It says, question, Justin, why was the choice made to have his full name be Duke Ravengard and omit Ulder when you address him as such?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I actually wasn't involved in the discussion to change his name. And originally, when we were designing him, his name was Ulder, and so that's why I've been saying Ulder all the time, is because it was like one of those last-minute things to change it from Ulder Ravengard to Duke Ravengard. And I think it was just because he was referred to more as Duke in Baldur's Gate 3, or something like that. And so, yeah, we switched it over to Duke at kind of, not really the last minute, but before Lokelock.
You've been saying it for all the wrong reasons.
Alder. Perfect. All right.
Way to start the show. Okay, next question. This is from Otterus, I think. Otteus?
Olderus.
There's no L in there, Justin. Asking, when you look at balance, do you try to buff champions or nerf them more often? Do you buff or nerf more often, Justin?
That's a very good question. This is actually...
We need like a score chart.
So 9 times out of 10, I prefer to buff champions. And the reason for that is there is sort of a natural sort of power creep in the game over time. Newer champions, inevitably, they tend to be more powerful than older champions. So when we're doing reworks, we're almost always looking at buffing those champions. The only time we really do nerfs is when there's a champion that is just so overpowered that we don't want to bring every other champion up to that power level. And that's the point at which we do nerfs. There's a couple of champions out there that need some nerfy nerfs. But for the most part, yeah, we always try to buff because buffing just feels better. It feels better to have a champion that you like to use get buffed, and it feels really bad to have a champion you like to use get nerfed. So
that's true. So on that note, do you try to like put the buffs out one at a time and nerf all at once? You know, so just
we haven't done a lot of like nerf passes before. We are gonna have to at some point deal with he who shall not be named. And I was wondering whether it makes sense to try and put out a bunch of like kind of balance changes at the same time, so we have some good changes and some bad changes. Try and offset some of the disappointment, let's say, that would come from the community. But yeah.
All right. Next question. This is from Trizen1. I did a variant, I forgot the name of it, but this is where only one certain champs could partake, and it started only with Calliope. It listed the run as easy for me, but it was anything but easy. I was almost unable to complete it, and I only had a total of 3 champions to get to level 150. Why?
Yes, so the adventure/variant difficulty metric that we use.
Now we choose those at random, right?
We may as well, I guess. So it's very outdated. We haven't actually touched that system in 6 or 7 years. So it only takes into account the amount of favor you have. Basically, since we released the game. Yeah, it only takes into account the amount of favor you have. It doesn't take into account like the champions you have unlocked, the gear you have, the Modron cores, blessings, perks, anything, active buffs, anything like that. And so it is. I mean, to say it is inaccurate is kind of an insult to inaccurate things. It is incredibly inaccurate, and it is actually very high on my list of things I would like to take a stab at. I don't think we'll be able to get it perfect. Dave and I have had this argument a whole bunch of times, but I don't think we'll be able to get it perfect, and that's not what I'm aiming for.
Extremely difficult problem to get.
But I think we will be able to get it so that if you only have like 3 eligible champions for an adventure, and you have to get to an area that you don't have enough favor to get to, or it'd be very hard to get to with a full formation, I think we'll be able to detect that and mark it as very hard. But I mean, we are still sort of early in on the work on that, so. We haven't really seen any sort of preliminary results of how well we can do at refactoring that. But it is high on my list. It's second or third on my list of priorities, actually.
I still think the system needs a comment system. So that players, once they finish the event, they could leave a comment for other players.
It. This was 10 out of 10 difficulty.
Was the worst. Would not do again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start to leave eBay reviews? What?
Yeah. Of course, we probably have to filter all those because who knows?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, that is it for the questions left over from last week. On to the new questions. First question out of the gate today is from Garwar. And Garwar asks, can you talk a bit about what happened with the servers today and what players can expect going forward?
Yeah, so we had a couple of small server hiccups earlier in the day. So a lot of that, the reason that happened is we've got a promo going out right now on Epic Games. Welcome to everyone who is joining us from Epic Games, whether it's your first time here or you're a returning player. But yeah, we had a bunch of sort of installs coming in that we're not normally getting at 9 o'clock in the morning on a random Thursday. And so the load was a little bit higher, but we did discover a couple of things we could optimize in the process of that. So I think that moving forward, we should expect a little bit more stability. We found one sort of issue that could cause, basically when a server begins to get under load, can cause it to receive more load rather than less load, which is what you would like to have in some sort of load balancing setup. So we had to, we fixed that, and that should prevent any sort of snowballing of servers getting overloaded and then just getting taken to the floor.
Yeah. I mean, in general, we haven't had a whole lot of server issues of late.
No,
it certainly
it's
hasn't
been pretty solid. I don't know why we're saying this out loud, but yeah.
And it's been pretty solid. I mean, it is one of those things that, in the past we have gone through periods where there were, every 3 or 4 weeks sort of minor issues that were cropping up. And it's been in a pretty solid state for quite a long time. But today's issue, we have, there is, what am I trying to say? There's been an ongoing at noon, like on a rollout day, issue that we've seen that has often been something that I know Peter's been keeping his eye very close on, which can, if not carefully addressed, take the servers, make the servers a little unresponsive for a period of about 5 minutes is sort of what they're running into. And it has to do with the way that the updated definitions for the game are loaded, and that is something that we've put a little bit of technical design into, and we're thinking of a solution for that will just make that problem disappear, but it's going to need a little bit of work to get it there. So that's something that we're looking at getting in that should take care of those sort of really, really peak, everyone's reloading the game at once moments. But I generally think they're in pretty good shape, so it hasn't been like an ongoing issue that we had seen in the past. So I think expect going forward that there's very little server downtime. Justin's like knocking on wood. He's like, all right.
I hope so.
Next question. No more 4 a.m. text. Yes, no, I love the 4 a.m. texts. This one is from Rough Rider 1995 asking, can the champion search button be placed on the campaign map or on the variant section so that we can see who is available before starting a restrictive variant?
Yeah, so there's sort of 2 parts to this. One, can the champion search button be placed on the campaign map or the variant selection system? Yes. Unfortunately, it wouldn't do what you want it to do because right now you have to be on an adventure in order to click that limit by current adventure thing.
That's true.
And we talked about this sort of the first episode after Champion Search came out, and about how it's more challenging to get it to show the current or the available champions for sort of any adventure or variant, because a lot of that stuff isn't loaded in and active in the system. And so it doesn't actually, we don't actually know specifically what the restrictions are until you start the variant.
And it's typically the very custom restrictions for those adventures that make that so you can't, it's not just a selection of filters.
Yeah. We don't have effect handlers running for every single possible variant restriction at all times, regardless of what variant you're on, because that would explain some of the high RAM usage from time to time, but that's probably not what's happening. Now, with that said, this kind of behavior is something that we have seen requested a whole lot. People wanting to be able to basically select a specific variant and see and use the champion search for that variant's restrictions. And maybe that's something we can work towards if we can put on our clever hats and find a way to do that that doesn't break things. But at this moment in time, as the tool is implemented, it will not work that way. So, alas.
Alrighty, next question. This is from Garwar. With the precedent of the Warduck skin, can we get a Duke Otter Ravengard, Marshal of the Flaming Fish skin? Then both Dukes would have an anthropomorphic animal skin.
Yeah. We saw this request. This request came in late last episode as well, and we saw it and we kind of shook our heads at it. But I think if you keep asking about it, maybe you can wear us down, and I can take it over to Chris and see if he'd like to do otter skins. If you guys, the last stream should have been the place for you asking about all these skins, because Chris is actually
possible. That's true. Chris was on the last stream.
Chris is the one who kind of decides what a lot of these skins are, because he does a lot of the theming for DLCs and sort of month-long events and stuff like that.
Utterly fantastic. Oh, the puns have started.
Excellent.
Okie dokie.
Let's see. The next question here is from Fewer Pills, which I think is a question about just an oversight, not necessarily, but something we should be able to fix. Fewer Pills asks, can we get the option to apply bench seat changes from the champion search window, even when pressing escape? I've had it so many times that I arranged my bench and then pressed escape to leave and had to do it again.
Oh, does it only, it must
only do it on the click of the close button.
Jarrett!
Oversight.
Yeah, it's definitely an oversight. It must be a different code path that goes through the button rather than through the escape.
It's got to be like a generic code path that goes through the.
Yeah. I bet that's right. The one that works for escape is probably on the default dialog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still, it should call it overridden hide function.
Yeah.
At any rate, we can fix that. We can totally fix that.
Yes.
I will highlight it, and it will get fixed. And I will tell everyone about it next episode, how it got fixed.
And then next episode what will happen is someone will ask a question and be like, hey, when I press escape, I just want to close the window. I don't want to have to click through a confirmation box as well. Can you make it so pressing escape just closes the window without asking to confirm?
Okay, let's have another question.
It's going to happen.
Next question. Well, it's going to happen now. Someone's going to ask it whether they want that question or not. This question is from Emote. Can you please fix all the collection dialog bars that cannot be gotten to 100%, such as legendaries in equipment, premium skins / familiar / potion shop items counting as free, counting unreleased or test feats. Test feats. Really, are the test feats counting, even though they are unavailable, and champions with 0 time gates opened?
Etc.
I swear we promised these were going to get fixed.
Yeah, this is on my list. It's on my medium priority list, and I am actually my high priority
MPL.
list. So my we talked about my lists last episode. I think I've got my ASAP list as soon as possible, things that need to get done, or else we're going to miss
It's on
build
fire
blocks.
list. Yep.
The high priority list, which is like things that need to be done kind of in the next month or so, and then the medium priority list, and then the low
LPL.
priority list. Yes, the LPL. And so. Going through the collections dialogue and doing a modern review of it is on my medium priority list.
Modern review of it? Didn't we release it not like 4 months ago, 3 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, in February, end of February. So yeah, it's still on that list, and I really hope to get to it. I am working through my high priority list, which is stuff that is not on fire but needs to be done in the next month, and then after that, hopefully I can get through that before I add too much more stuff to it, and then work on this collections thing, because it is something that I would like to do, and I feel really, really bad that it has not been done. Yeah, it's yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the things that we struggle with from time to time is we put out a new feature, we're very excited about it, we work really hard on it, we do a bunch of reviews on it internally, and we get it out, and we sort of implement some of the low-hanging player feedback, and then it just, because it's now out and done, it becomes a lower priority, and we're just not able to dedicate a lot of time back to it to really get it up to, where it needs to be. So. I feel bad.
Next question. How many channel points to see Justin's lists? Yep. This is from Garwar. What is the qualification for a champion to receive the debuff roll? Didn't we get this last week too? If we know that, then we can better understand who should or should not have it. Help us, help you.
Sure. So let me go I'm going into a design doc. I am finding the list of debuffs champions. Okay. So we used, I will just read off basically what we used internally. When we were going through every single champion in the game and trying to determine whether or not they should have the debuff tag or not. I will say that not every single one of these things was necessarily applied at the same weight to every champion. So it's a very hard thing to specifically define this and not have it be too broad or too niche. And so we were aiming for somewhere in the middle. But here's what we kind of came up with. Number 1, debuff champion needs to take an action or is triggered to take an action which applies an effect to enemies which cause them to take additional damage on subsequent attacks. Specifically on subsequent attacks, not just more damage on that attack. For example, it could increase basic attack damage taken or be something less direct, like causing hits-based or armor-based enemies to take more damage. It usually applies to any future attacks, but it could only apply to their own damage. For example, with Krond, his cantrips only apply to his own damage. It should not be just part of a champion's base attack or ultimate attack. So this is an important one. If a champion, like when they attack someone, just applies a debuff that doesn't really have any other formation abilities applied or associated with it, we didn't want to count that. Likewise, there's a whole bunch of ultimate attacks that just increase damage that affected enemies take, and we didn't want to count those as debuffs. And D on this first point, it needed to apply to a specific specific enemy or set of enemies. It couldn't just be passive, applying statically to all enemies all the time. But it could apply to enemies within a location on the field, so when in a particular AoE or when enemies pass a certain point. So for example, the changes we made to Insect Swarm lately, that would count. Do they take more damage while they're in the swarm? Now it just applies a debuff. So that's obviously a debuff. But things like, I guess, Strix with her smelly mechanic, that would count as a debuff because it happens when enemies pass a certain point toward the formation. Point 2, the effect should be a significant part of the kit. So one-offs, ultimates, like we talked about in section 1C, or obscure effects, such as something that only applies if a champion's knocked out, for example, don't count. It doesn't have to be their main support ability. They don't have to be built around it entirely, but it should be non-trivial. And this is the one that I think was the most kind of up for debate when we were trying to decide whether a mechanic was a core part of the kit or a secondary part of the kit. So there's definitely, I think, some room for discussion on that one. Point 3, favored foe mechanics are not debuff mechanics in and to themselves. We just made that decision so that we wouldn't have a bunch of extra debuff champions that all they did was cause a certain type of enemy to take more damage. And we felt like that would be, the favored foe mechanics are separate from debuff mechanics just because there's generally a little bit more to them. Point 4, not all champions who can apply a debuff will necessarily be tagged as a debuff champion. And this kind of ties into both point 2 and the ultimate base attack bit. Just because they apply a debuff doesn't mean they're a debuff champion. I think if we went that route and we just said, if you apply any sort of damage increasing debuff to an enemy, you're a debuff champion, we would have probably, oh, thank you, phone. We would have probably way too many debuff champions in the game. And it would delegitimize the tag itself as being like a meaningful tag. So that's it. Those are the 4 kind of things that we used, and then Pete and I looked through all 130-ish champions in the game and made a call based on those guidelines, let's say. Yeah, tough one, but hopefully that kind of helps you give some insight into where we were coming from. And I look forward to more questions about this in future streams.
Perfect. Well, you can have one right now, because as I was going through the questions here, highlighting ones to answer, I did come across one from the Bard's Forge, specifically asking, why doesn't Dadius have the debuff tag? Debuff is literally in his ability description.
Why doesn't Dadius have, let me scroll down here. Dadius is in which seat? He's in like seat 6, 7, where is he?
He's not in the dock, that's why
Dadius! He is not in this dock. Dadius. He's not listed in my thing here. I think we might have skipped him.
He's not in there. You literally missed Dadius.
What? Dadius?
Well, that explains that.
Let me go look at that.
We do have other questions to answer.
No, okay, yeah. Go through the other questions.
All right, were you looking up Dadius?
I'm looking up Dadius.
The character really wasn't in Justin's stock. Next question. This is from Emote If you are on the map screen and choose a flex champion and then go to the event and choose an adventure, none of the adventures or variants for that flex champion you chose are there. You have to restart or swap adventures to get them to appear. Could this be made so that you don't have to do that?
Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, if you are on the map screen and you choose a flex champion, and then go to the event and choose an adventure, none of the adventures or variants for that flex champion you chose are there. You have to restart or swap adventures to get them to appear. Yeah, I mean,
that sounds like a very specific order of operations.
Yes, and I think this is also one of those things that I know when we were talking about, like originally before we had the event icon on the map screen, we had mentioned that potentially there would be things that didn't work, that because of the fact that some of the data isn't loaded. And this sounds like exactly that.
This is like data that's not getting reloaded once you unlock them.
Yeah, because it definitely seems like once you unlock that champion, all of your campaign data would have to be reloaded if you're doing it from the map. So that's definitely something that would have been one of those cases. We can tag that and take a look at it for sure.
Yeah, it seems very doable.
Yeah, it should be doable, but it's definitely, that's one of those cases. That's one of the things that we were definitely nervous about when adding certain features to the map, just because not necessarily everything is loaded at that point.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, next question. This one is from Super Collins, asking, is there a way to read a given adventure story when I'm not in said adventure yet?
Okay, so there's a couple of important. So you can read an adventure story after you have completed the adventure.
Yes.
You need to have completed the base adventure, and then in the collection dialog, in the adventure panel, you can, or I guess the campaigns panel, you go into collections, then campaign, then into the list of adventures, and then you can click on the journal there to view the cinematics and the quest text and whatnot when you're not on the adventure.
Yes.
That is something we just added at the beginning of the year.
That's right.
That people were asking for
However,
a very long time.
You cannot read ahead.
You can't read ahead.
Skip ahead and read adventures that you have not yet completed.
You need to have completed the adventures.
The text for that might be on some third-party sites or something.
I'm sure it is.
FanWiki or other.
It exists.
Yeah. Like I'm sure there's a wiki somewhere you could find if you wanted to read the text and not do the adventure.
Yeah.
But in game, you must complete the adventure. No spoilers. You can't read ahead.
Yeah. This is a spoiler-free game stream. I don't know.
Yep. Perfect. Next question. This is from the Black Widow Enterprise Edition. That's what EE stands for, I'm sure.
Yes.
Black
Widow EE.
Yeah. Last week, a hotfix changed the behavior to Celice's divine sense, and it is to be fixed in a future release. Is this fixed to occur before Dragon Down completes? I picked Celice as my champion this week, and in hindsight, with the bug, she may not have been the best choice.
Yeah. So the bug in question here was not actually with, I guess it was, we fixed it by adjusting Celice's divine sense to not be buffable by abilities that buff formation abilities from other champions, so like Narak, Older, or Duke, I guess, also has this, Ulcoria, etc. The reason we had to fix that is because it was possible to basically make Celice's damage taken go below 0%. So her damage reduction could go above 100%, I guess is another way to say that, which isn't good. It kind of, it's actually not good for players as well as not being good for the game, because what happens is if you're just auto-progressing, you'll get to an area and the enemies will just stack up on Celice, not be able to do any damage to her, but you also won't be able to do any damage for them, and so you'll just get stuck there, and you won't be earning gold, you won't be getting drops, you won't be doing anything for the whole period that you're stuck there. So that's kind of one of the two reasons, or at least one of the N reasons why we try to be very quick about fixing sort of invulnerability issues. With that said, I know there is one other champion who has invulnerability issues that we do need to fix. So yeah, that's the reason why we did it. We're going to adjust the abilities so that only the buff part of Divine Sense is affected by those other abilities that increase formation abilities, but I believe that requires some code changes, and we couldn't do it in data. So, yerp.
Okie dokie.
Whoa, just deleted that question rather than cross it out.
One more question, and then we have a giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This question is from Randram, and he says, Dupuis mentioned on a spooky-themed October champion. Elaborate, painfully in-depth, pretty please.
A spooky... Dupuis was giving out spoilers.
I mean...
I'm told he wasn't.
Not enough, apparently. No one was satisfied.
This is a spooky October-themed champion. I had to look that up because we haven't actually done the design on our October champions yet. I see it here. Yeah, there's a champion here. Okay, so I can just read off the character sheet for you, I guess, in the design doc here. Keeping in mind we haven't actually done anything for them yet. So character name, question mark, question mark, question mark, seat, question mark, gender, question mark, question mark. Tags, here's tags. The tags on the champion right now are gender, race, class, alignment, role, affiliation. Dave, can you?
Yeah, I
that
can
is
confirm
what it says.
It says that's what these things say. Yep.
Ability scores, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question
This
mark.
seems like an
mark.
empty character sheet.
It
I'm
does
gonna tell
seem
you
like
that.
it,
This is the
seems
template for.
Yeah. You know what I've been reading? I've just been reading a template. We've literally filled nothing in for it yet. Worst spoilers ever. Thank you.
It's an award.
I should get an award for that.
Yes, and the
Anyway.
champion is pronounced year 8 champion.
Year 8 champion 2. Year 8 E2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeet.
Yay 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed those in-depth spoilers.
Oh. Yep. It is year 8 15 as foretold. Okay.
Year 4 E15. Oh, year 4 E15. Good champion.
Yep.
Good champion.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, we've got a giveaway ready to run.
Spoilers.
Sorry, I just saw it here in
No.
the document. So if you haven't been with us before, this is the point in the show where we run, you get free stuff. Well, you might get free stuff. You can
true.
enter for a chance to win free stuff.
It's really the only reason anyone comes.
Let's pretend that's not true.
Oh, okay.
So the way this is going to work is very shortly there will be a keyword in the chat. All you have to do is copy and paste that keyword back into chat. Say it in chat, I guess. And you will be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice.
Ooh, of their choice.
Of their choice. Of your choice. Of my choice.
Of your choice.
Not of my
You're
choice.
going to choose for them.
Only if I win. And the way it works, you can pick any type of chest in the game. Any type of chest in the game. Except for Gloria Bahamut chests, for meme reasons. Mean/meme reasons.
And we don't let people have the transparent aluminum chest.
No, the transparent aluminum chest doesn't. It's the walls are too thick. It can't hold anything.
You can see what's in it, though.
Yeah, I mean that's the other reason.
And we also don't let them have the clairvoyant admin chest, the one where you think,
Yes,
and then what you thought appears in the chest.
yes, we don't allow you to have
Not
that
anymore,
one.
anyway. That was-
Hey, that the keyword for it changed. There was a different keyword in chat or in the document.
very quick.
What other types of chests do you suppose people could?
And maybe an all blue, a Baltic rose. How about a blue gold? Maybe a caribou chest.
Same colors.
An Eva chest, or a French fingerling chest, or a
Okay.
German butterball chest. Maybe a gold rush russet chest. Green Mountain.
Types of birds.
You know. How about a pinto chest?
Potatoes. There it is. Newble 76.
Types of potatoes.
Types of potatoes. Well done.
All right.
What a fun game that we also play during our giveaways.
Hey. Sometimes it's hard to find a thing to have types of.
Sometimes it's hard to read through all of the spam to actually see people guessing. But
I mean, you eat birds and potatoes, so I was close. I mean, yeah, birds are delicious.
That's true. Yeah. And you were just saying colors of things.
Yeah,
so, I mean, at the beginning, it could have been anything.
Paint
That was
colors.
the idea. It's going to be paint colors sometime, isn't it? It's just going to be
I mean, if you start with
random
Yukon
variety of
Gold and Russet, I mean, people are going to get that out of the gate.
stuff. Yeah,
so.
that's true.
Okay.
Deep in potato skin when?
Oh, deep fried, delicious.
Oh my.
Okay, next question. This is from Foolish Genius 89. Now that we have Ulkura, ranged Ulkura, and now melee Ulkura, can you talk about how you decide what niches need to be filled or fleshed out?
That is the $1 million question. I think the hardest thing about champion design is finding something unique for each champion to do. This is something that Pete and I struggle with every time we start designing a champion. Like when we get to designing question mark from the October event, we are probably going to struggle with exactly what that champion is going to do that is unique and new. Somehow we keep on finding kind of new things to do with them. New formations to build and new ways for them to affect your runs. That's one of the things with like the D&D cartoon characters, the Saturday morning squad rather. We've given them the scavenger abilities, so each of them can kind of help you get a little bit more currency from the game, and we want to try and continue that on through all of those champions. But coming up with, I think there's 6 or 7 unique Saturday morning squad champions, and coming up with 6 or 7 like unique currencies for them to drop and have them thematically make sense for that champion has been more challenged than you would think. So yeah, I think coming up with niches, coming up with those things for champions to do that no other champion does is the hardest part of champion design, hands down. Balancing, that's trivial compared to actually figuring out exactly what they need to be doing. So.
Okay. Yeah, we have a potato familiar they're asking for.
Potato familiar would be awesome.
It's just a 386 chip. Next question. This is from the Bard's Forge. How do effects like Selice's Shield of Psychomancy hits-based armor enemies... Wait. How do effects like Selice's Shield of Psychomancy...
hit-based / armor enemies.
Take double, triple hits from the attacks. Okay, the description of the ability. And Human's Cleave, destroy twice as many segments. Stack. If both were active, assuming a triple hit from Celice, would a single hit destroy 4 or 6 armor pieces?
So I am not 100% sure. If I had to guess here,
You do.
I would, and I do.
Yeah, you're
I
required to
would
guess.
assume that they stack additively. So in the case of those, they would. Well, if Celice caused
guess
2
one.
hits, and if Human caused 2 hits, single hits to take 2 hits. Oh man, I'm actually not.
All right,
Just
you're
be
gonna have
bonus hits. I'm gonna have to ask someone honestly, and get back to you on this. I guess the assumption would be it would cause extra hits to be taken, and so 4 would probably be right there. You get 2 extra hits from Celice and 1 extra hit from Human. But yeah, I need to call a friend to Lifeline. I need to call Peter. Help me, Peter. Help me understand.
You're my only hope.
But yeah, I assume they would stack, and they would not, eat each other's breakfast and just have like the biggest one go or the first one go. But I am not 100% sure.
No, it is a good question.
It really depends on how they're implemented.
Well, that's true of everything.
Yes.
Okay. Next question. This is from Shivek74 asking, good day, gentlemen. Could we have more information on the alchemy system? Some of us are getting really low in certain potions.
So the alchemy system is 4th
It's on the list.
on my list
Yep.
of features to get into the game. Hopefully before the end of the year, but I don't quote me on that. Don't clip me on it.
2022, right?
Somebody just clipped me on that.
Early 2022.
The Alchemist is an interesting one because we have an idea for some synergy between the alchemy system and a champion that we're planning to release. And
Just
so,
into the wild.
yes,
Yeah.
well, into people's benches. And so we've got a little bit of a deadline on it because we kind of need to get the alchemy system in game before we put out this champion so that there can be the proper interaction there rather than having the champion kind of come out and have an ability that doesn't really seem to do anything until the alchemy system comes out. So we are really hoping for the alchemy system to get out this year. And it will, for people who don't know, who haven't heard me talk about it before, it would basically be a way to trade potions, one type of potion for another type of potion, and different sizes of potions up and down. So you could trade all of your tiny potions for huge potions, and you could trade, at a cost, your potions of health, say, that you don't want for potions of speed that you do want, kind of thing.
Okay. Next question.
Well, there'd be a notary champion too. Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, Justin. I think this one
Oh,
is
yes,
for you to
it's
read.
blue. Lexunam asks, more than a question, an idea. Wow. In the search screen for the champions, can we have the chance to double-click or double-tap/hold on mobile to swap champions? I believe that can make things easier. So this is an upgrade of the question we got last episode of can we click on champions to swap them? They want to double-click.
Yes, I mean, we are watching the requests for this. One of the things that we did point out previously is we do wish to have, going forward, this will be sort of the interface to a new champion sheet system. So clicking on the champion will be taking you to that once that feature is implemented. So we didn't want to have it just clicking on the champion, put them in the slot. One thought that I'd had was having something where like holding a hotkey, like a shift click or a control click to do it. I know that's not necessarily what you're hoping for on a mobile device. We're talking about having like double tap and hold on mobile. It is definitely possible that we could look into something for that in the future. Like I say, we're watching this feature. It's a brand new feature. We want to see how it gets used and if that's a continued request or if this was, or if it turns out that actually it's not too bad to just tap and drag. But certainly as that feature solidifies into the new character system, then we'll see what sort of shakes out of that. But I'm not adverse to like a hotkey or a key and a click to make that more straightforward for at least for PC platforms. Next question.
Yeah, next question here is from Raflin7, who asks, can you add an accessibility option to make the cursor more visible, especially on white backgrounds?
Wow, this is a we have new players in the audience question.
Yeah.
I'm sure we haven't had this question in a long time.
Yeah, I remember this one. It's a good one.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something that I think it's usually the circles that are asked about.
Yes,
Yeah.
people usually ask about the circles on snow. Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely one of those questions that falls into the category if it's something that we get a lot of requests for that we'll consider. I think sort of there are limited cases with white backgrounds that the cursor isn't visible on, although there are a few. But it's definitely as you may have gotten the idea from Justin's comments earlier about the items on the lists that are getting quite large, that we do try to prioritize quality of life improvements like this for based on the number of people that it impacts and sort of the level of requests we're getting. And so when we see a request like this, it is one of those ones where if we see a large number of players asking for it, that we'll move it up the list. Otherwise, it ends up being something that is sitting sort of down on the priority queue. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for more requests for that. I'm not sure if there are just adventures early on that triggered that, or if players, because I know like the circles was often something that was asked about.
Yeah, I don't know. Most of our snow backgrounds and stuff are going to be either in like Icewind Dale or in one of the events that's kind of set in the winter.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're doing any events set in the winter right now. So I think the Icewind Dale campaign is the most likely place to have seen that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I noticed in the chat, like Numantis is saying, the game doesn't hijack the Windows cursor. It is just your cursor.
That's true.
So you could change your cursor. That is an option.
Yeah.
If it's something that is really causing a trouble for you. Yeah.
Yep.
Next question. This is from Xavian 2018. They might be a bit young. Now that I have more Briv chests I can't open, any thoughts on a Briv cap or a 9 jump feat?
Yes. So this is actually on my high priority list. The Briv cap, 9 jump feat, that sort of thing, kind of some of the overpowered champions. They are on my high priority list to come up with solutions and then maybe just get all of that stuff out at once. Sort of tear off the Band-Aid with a Briv cap and a spurt thing and some other fixes for that. So it is probably closer today, I know this sounds sort of trivial, but it's closer today than it has been in previous weeks, obviously. But you know what I mean. It's a little closer to the forefront of my thinking part.
We don't want a 9 jump cap anymore. Since you've waited so long, we've gone to 11 jump. Oh.
Yeah. Anywho.
Okay, next question. This is from Gauntlet Blade. Can we get a rewrite on Fen so that she can always be in Elminster variants? As it is, she's going to fade out. Or phase out.
Fade out?
Phase out.
Okay, so apparently someone's gone back in time and rewritten Fen's history, and now she's starting to slowly fade out of all the photographs. Hashtag Back to the Future reference. Anyway, so... Fen, for those who don't know, if anyone's new, and I think there are some new players around, Fen is a champion who makes it easier to do patron challenges. Patrons, for people who are brand new to the game, unlock a little bit later on. But the way they work is you get some challenges each week. You do those challenges, you get some currency. You can spend that currency on fun things like Modron component chests and time gate pieces.
Which you'll learn about later.
Which you'll learn about later as well. But yeah, so Fen makes it so your progress on that is doubled. I think the solution that we've talked about on Fen is to have it so that she functions kind of like Strongheart used to, where she just affects all parties. And then you just have to have her in your formation in a background party, and she'll double your progress even on Elminster variants where you don't have her in there, which is probably a better solution than putting in a feat or something that makes her always eligible for Elminster, because that's kind of a slippery slope that we want to be very careful with.
Okie dokie. Next question. This is from Autius. Are there going to be any more Baldur's Gate 3 champions?
That is a great question.
You mean Chris didn't spoil this?
I can't believe Chris didn't spoil this.
Oh no.
I think so. I think so is the answer.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there will be more characters that appear in that game, appear in our game. Because people seem to like them, and you got to give the people what they like.
Okay, let's move on to the next question before you say something you shouldn't. This one is from Foolish Genius 89, asking why, oh why, is Duke Ravengard in the same seat as Warduke? Beyond the means of a double Duke team, why they would have worked fantastic together.
Yeah, this is a good question. So the reason is we actually have a house rule where you only have one, sorry, the opposite of that. All of the champions with the word Duke in their name are required to go into the same seat. I don't know who came up with this rule, but it's just the rule that's been there since the beginning of time. So that is the reason why the two Dukes are in the same. No, that is not the reason why. Putting champions in seats is really hard. Especially when we get to like kind of quasi-affiliation. Yeah. They're just so jittery. But we wanted Duke to be available in Baldur's Gate 3 formations because they're from Baldur's Gate 3 as well as some other stuff. And so we had a limited number of seats to choose from, and the seat that they ended up in was the one that we inevitably picked. Unfortunately, that did mean that they weren't they weren't able to work with Warduke or obviously any of the other champions in that seat. But picking seats for champions is one of those things that on the list of like figuring out, designing a champion, I think like figuring out the champion's niche is like up here. And like balancing the champion and designing their abilities once we've figured this out is down here. And somewhere in the middle is figuring out what seat they're going to go into. It's actually quite challenging. You can never make everyone happy because inevitably there will be someone who wants to use two champions that are from the same seat together because there's some synergy there that we just can't get around now that we have 9 or 10 champions in each seat.
Wait, didn't I see you like with a D12 the other day?
How am I supposed to convince them that this is hard if you're spilling all my secrets? So yeah, it's a hard thing. And in this case, unfortunately, the Dukes will not be working together.
Not at this time. All right.
Next question here is from Xavian2018. This is a 6-year-old asking this question.
That's what I said before. Maybe that 2018 is not what I think it means.
Maybe it's not when they were born. They ask, we know it is harder than expected, but is there progress on allowing us to open more than 50 bounty contracts at a time?
So there isn't any progress since last time. It's on the not free list of the items that Peter has been working down, but it is still on the list. It is something that comes up when we talk about the items that are on the list. It is something we would like to get done, but there has not been progress since the last time it was talked about. 2018 is when they created the Twitch account. There you go.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
And Rough Rider 1995 is saying that's not their birth. What?
Why do people put years in their names?
I thought that's what that meant. That was a convention.
I thought so too.
All right. Speaking of, though, Rough Rider 1995 asks, have you confirmed whether Thalora should rush from a boss zone and when it will possibly get corrected?
Actually, speaking of the age thing, that does make I really shouldn't have referred to like Matt 1934 as Gramps when he was asking these questions last stream. That makes me feel bad. Anyway.
Before we do that, yes, William Smith, the answer is yes, and it's because he can't grow one.
Ouch.
All right, moving on.
That wasn't nice. Anyway, Thalora rushing from boss zones and when it will possibly get corrected. I have confirmed that it should be possible. It's supposed to be. Design would like it to be possible. And I believe it's on the list to look at in terms of why that would not be working. It could have been just something was implemented a little bit wrong because in general, champion abilities that sort of do something, do special things, I guess, that aren't, isn't just like increase damage, increase whatever. A lot of them don't work in boss areas, like abilities that spawn extra mobs don't work in boss areas. So maybe that somehow got conflated, or like the template used to implement the ability was pulled from one of those, and that's why it's not working in boss areas. It should work. So I will check that again.
All right. See, and here I thought Lure was the ruler of Omicron Persei 8. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, next question, and we are almost out of time.
Running low,
so, this is from Rough Rider 1995. What is so special about Year 4 E15 champion, Event 15 Year 4?
So for folks who don't know, every once in a while, Year 4 E15 champion with, I think, Delina's portrait will show up in places in game. And my understanding of this, and maybe you know more than I do, my understanding of this is if there's a champion for some reason that you don't have definitions for, like the data doesn't exist for them in the client, it automatically defaults to Year 4 E15 with the Delina portrait.
That I have no idea why that would be.
Well, that was done, I think, because at some point there was a champion that was in development that had gotten referenced somewhere, and it was causing like null pointer exceptions or something in the game. And so I think that was the kind of solution to that, was to sort of generate a set of default defs. And for some reason,
and it wasn't like a champion we were trying to hide.
I think that's what initially caused it,
right?
But there is no Year 4 E15 champion in the defs in the game. It's just something that's created by the client. when there's a champion that the client knows nothing about.
That's true. All right, we got time for one more, and then I think we're out.
All right.
This last question of today will be from Randram asking, in 2022, Justin promised us on stream, on Developer Insights, that we would get an increase to the max area before the end of 2024. Are we still on target for that?
I think so. I think so.
I think so.
I think so.
Okay.
It is still something I would like to do relatively soon. We're starting to see people, with full legendary gear and all the patron perks and blessings and whatnot get up to area 2000 somewhat consistently with vanilla formations without using anything too cheesy. So I think that's the point at which we need to start looking at whether 2000 is a valid sort of max cap or whether it should be moved up, and I think it probably will be by the end of the year.
Bump it up 2 areas. It'll be great.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll just make it equal to the year, so we'll bump it up to 2024, and then automatic. We'll tie it.
We'll just
it's
tie
like
it to the
tying.
year.
It's like tying things to inflation. We're just going to tie it to the year.
Yes.
There you go.
All right. Well, that appears to be all of the time that we have today.
Lovely. If we didn't get to your question today, don't worry. We'll be back. We're here every single week.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, unless one of us is sick or on vacation. But before we sign off, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was, if I'm not mistaken, Mars and Gabe. They're the 2 folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
We like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Justin, the other day I was arrested, and the policeman accused me of stealing a complete set of encyclopedias.
Oh my gosh.
I said to them, hang on. I can explain everything.